what role do startups have in creating the transition to net zero, as opposed to, say, sort of established businesses? And this question is firstly to you, Vidal. Primarily, you're a business making fuel cells. There are lots of kind of established businesses that sort of play in this space and dabble in, they've dabbled in ICE technology and they've dabbled in fuel cell technology. Why would a startup like Bramble bring something to the table that Bosch couldn't do themselves, for instance?
Yeah, really good question. I'll talk about this as a wider thing rather than just in fuel cells and hydrogen, but I will try and bring it back because it's where my expertise lies. So please excuse that these references. But for us at Bramble, we can move incredibly quickly, right? We can see opportunity and go for those opportunities much more quickly than the likes of the big OEMs and the tier ones and the incumbent manufacturers. With the way that we've made our fuel cells, and this is what I mean by my industry and my take on this, is that we've completely revolutionized how we make fuel cells. So everybody else who makes fuel cells, they have an inherent process that takes a very long time to make a fuel cell, and you have to build a factory that costs a certain amount of money. And at the end of that process, you have something that comes out, a fuel cell of certain size, certain dimensions, certain power output, et cetera, et cetera. For us, the way that we've approached this problem of and the problem I should have addressed at the top is, how do you make fuel cells cost effective and actually integratable and not niche application for, just the supercar, the one-off or the two-off? How do you actually get every vehicle that drives down the road how do you decarbonize those sectors in haulage and transportation, etc., is by making it cost effective. And Bramble's way of manufacturing that is to look at a completely novel manufacturing route that whips the cost out of that manufacturing process. It simplifies it completely. But when you've got inherent investment into these lines and factories that these incumbent manufacturers have, there is a massive inertia to go, I tell you what we should do is scrap that and do something else. And let's go down a different route, because you've got sunk capital in there. And I think that that's probably the real reason why the startup who can move very quickly, who have almost a blank piece of paper in front of them to how to solve a problem, versus here is a stack of papers next to you, and this is how we've attempted to solve these problems. Which way should we go back down? Because it's unlikely that you're just going to throw the papers off the desk and start again because of your inherent investment. And for us, we can listen to a customer and respond to their needs very quickly. Whereas, the decision makers that are at Bramble, at least, and then I know in most startups, the people having those initial conversations in the commercial side are one step removed from the decision makers at the maximum. Whereas often if you're at Bosch or whatnot, and I go to you and say, can you make me a fuel cell for my marine application? There's so many layers of chains and things that you have to get through, whereas we can move really quickly. And that means that we can sort of look to decarbonize more quickly, get a product into the market more quickly. And I think that that's the real benefit of being in a startup.
Yeah, Aidan, I guess you're finding that too at Carbon Re?
Yeah, I think the points Vidal has raised are really, really accurate and really true to the situation. But I would also add that focus is really critical as well. And the focus that we have at Carbon Re is different to the incumbents in the industry. They're focused on producing as much of the product as they can, whereas we're much more focused on what's the way of reducing costs and thereby carbon emissions in the production of this product, which everyone needs, and is definitely something, going forward, the demand for these products is going to be increasing, not diminishing. So we have to figure out ways of doing this in a sustainable way that will reduce emissions from the sector while still enabling, society to function. But in terms of what you can kind of bring to the table as a startup, and the space definitely needs more startups, and I would encourage more people to look at this route as a vehicle to accelerate decarbonization, and it's definitely what the area needs. Again, it's the focus, and that people are coming along with the vision of building a company to achieve something, and to achieve something in an industry that it might not have been on the table. It might be a different way of looking at things, but it drives the industry in a direction that we need to go in order to prevent climate change and to mitigate the effects.
Sorry, Dennis, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think the startups have a role to play in innovation. I think is a generic question. You could has been asked for has been asked for decades. It has proved true for decades, really. I mean, all the US startups that started in people's garages, all the various companies, I mean, possibly every company I've ever invested in. I think you could ask the question of why didn't some incumbent start that? And so I don't think it's unique to climate tech. I think entrepreneurship, as we've seen, and I think as we're seeing increasing amounts of capital get deployed into startup businesses across a range of sectors, and I think it is because they're highly focused on providing a solution to a very specific problem, which is quite different if you're a large organization and you're trying to run your business and you've got multiple stakeholders, you've got multiple things to think about, you've got existing employees, all sorts of things. I think structurally, as we've seen in the pharma industry, the medtech industry, generally in the tech industry, don't necessarily support innovation. Large corporates often end up creating some internal skunk works, almost like an internal startup. If they've got a particularly hard problem to resolve, they go through periods of having their own venture fund and having it in-house and spinning it out. Innovation is a struggle for large corporates. They do it. Many of them do it well, but there's, I think, an enormous role to be played for startup businesses, and ultimately they'll grow up, they'll solve a problem. At some point, they'll either go public or they'll get acquired. And a lot of innovation for corporates is done through acquisition these days. So it needs the funnel of startups, as Aidan says. I think there needs to be more and more startups. There's plenty of problems to be solved. We're keen to support it, and then hopefully the innovation grows.
If we look at some of the LPs that support a lot of the VCs, and you can see that there is desire for big corporates, tier ones, OEMs to be funding innovation in a different way. They're not, when we talk about corporates being giants and being slow moving, I think that's almost a little unfair, because what you do have is the ability, and I think you're seeing it more and more now, is that you're getting these startups that, like the likes of Bramble, that can partner with large OEMs and tier ones, the likes of Bosch, etc., aren't necessarily looking at fuel cells and going, right, should we reinvent fuel cells? They're looking at who's got massive focus on big investment, on big inventorship changes, who's innovating really quickly and really well, and then looking to partner with those companies so that you can then use their might to bring your product to market. And I think that's a really important thing. Really important to have lots of entrepreneurs and innovative technology. But how do you get that from your garage to someone's boat is a really interesting path. And I think that those larger companies are a really good vessel to get you there.